Hey, Sleepy Sheepy here. Today we're going to be looking at a level 80 strength build using the Omenkiller Cleaver, and this is going to be blood infused. We're going to be putting 40 points into vigor, 25 into endurance, and then everything else just into strength. You could go for an arcane route where you'd use occult scaling rather than blood infusion, and that would be one way to run it, but I found for my level the bleed infused with the strength scaling worked out pretty well. For armor, I wanted to maximize the number of horns involved in this build, so I used the Crucible Tree Helm, and then the Crucible Tree Armor, Tree Sentinel Gauntlets, just because those have a little bit more poise, and the Crucible Greaves. I also have the Erdtree's Favor +2, which gives HP stamina and equip load boost, the Bullgoat Talisman, which brings us up to 96 poise, the Greatjar's Arsenal to boost our equip load, and then the Claw Talisman, since jumping attacks are really strong with this build. As for the tiers, I'll be using the Strength Knot Crystal tier and the Crimson Bubble tier, just to boost strength and then restore HP when I'm close to death. The moveset for this build is going to be pretty good, especially the jumping attack. So the jumping L1 comes out, and these weapons have a decent amount of range, so you'll be likely able to clip people. You can also delay the jump attack until the end, so if you're expecting them to roll, you may be able to roll catch them at the end of a jump. Also, it does have a crouching light attack that comes out pretty quick, and honestly, just the regular neutral attacks come out decently fast. The Great Axe class as a whole was buffed a little bit. Not sure how that guy ended up down there, but we'll just take care of that real quick. The running heavy is also pretty good. It comes out as a sweeping slash, which I kind of like for just a little variety. It's important to note that if you just use the jumping heavy attack with both weapons, you're going to be pretty predictable. So if you can change it up with some crouch attacks or maybe some just neutral L1s, I think you'll be in business. As for the Ashes of War, I have Raptors of the Mist on this build, so I found that really useful because it combos well into a jumping attack. And then I also have Sword Dance, which I think is pretty great in terms of just a quick switch to a move that comes out both quickly and has a nice forward momentum. So that was my recommendation. I did try some other stuff for my offhand stuff, but I really like the combination of Raptors of the Mist and then Sword Dance. That pretty much covers everything I wanted to say about the build and the moveset we'll be using. If you want to go ahead and jump into the invasions, feel free. However, I did want to mention I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. I get some money back from YouTube if I do, so if you wouldn't mind subscribing, that would be awesome. But as always, feel free to do whatever you want. So thanks so much, and let's go ahead and jump into those invasions. Alright, so jumping into our first invasion, we have a quick 3v1, which was pretty interesting in terms of utilizing this weapon class. So I think Great Axes in general are a little bit slow. They were buffed to be a little bit faster recently, but you really need to kind of be aware of your timing and try to bait more attacks than just straight up pressure with these. So the most recent video I did was with the Eclipse Shuttle, and since that's a curved sword, you can really just chase down and kind of keep applying pressure consistently. But here, I think you really want to be aware of kind of what your opponents are doing and utilize the burst damage that comes with, say, like the jumping attack. So there I was able to kind of just vigor check that Phantom and get a jumping attack that killed them. The bleed buildup is definitely going to be significant too, so you're not going to bleed proc immediately all the time, but you are likely going to, gradually build it up, and sometimes you'll get opportunities to really just get that blood buildup and the big damage output to strike at the same time, and you can hit for over 1,000 damage on a jumping attack, which is, pretty significant after patch 1.07, which kind of lowered the damage scaling. So I definitely enjoyed using this setup. I think the pressuring that comes with the extra bleed damage is pretty nice, and the high damage output of jumping attacks, especially paired with Raptors of the Mist, I found to be really enjoyable. So there I was able to kill the Phantom that was using Light Roll. I was pretty happy about that, since Light Roll is a pretty good counter to this type of weapon class that's a little bit slower. So being able to, just kind of take care of somebody that's using Light Roll effectively is just kind of a testament to where the Great Axe class is now, and that you really can use the utility of just kind of jumping attacks and varying your attack timing and everything to take care of somebody that's got really quick speed. This next one I thought was just kind of funny. So they kind of baited me into this narrow hallway here, and They definitely got the jump on me the first time, but the second time I was able to throw some sleep pots, and that was enough to kind of get them out of that area. I managed to miss the jumping attack while the person was in the sleep animation, so that was unfortunate, but I was kind of trying to avoid the Scarlet Rot and also get a Raptors of the Mist attack out, and there I was able to kill that overleveled Phantom just with the blood buildup and jumping attack and then a quick chase down attack. So that was an instance where I used something else. I think I went for a crouching attack after that jumping attack, and that was pretty effective, I think, in terms of being a chase down method. So, just as kind of important to note to vary your attacks and not just go for jumping attacks, even though they are, pretty fun and have decent range. And I think it's, when I first started using this build, I wasn't really mixing up my moveset as much as I should, and that's just kind of a general recommendation for any weapon class, is to just vary your moveset, because it keeps your kind of opponent guessing, and the timings are, difficult to adjust for. It really makes your opponent kind of react to what's going on rather than being able to predict what's going on. So this next one was a pretty long one. It, I think, involved 5 kills. So we have 2 Phantoms, I think 2 Blues ended up coming in, and then, there's the host. So this one was pretty interesting. I think there's a wide variety in terms of skill levels from my opponents, and here I was able to kind of use the Rot Breath as cover to get a jumping attack on that first Phantom. So that was pretty solid. I think using Rot Breath or something that really takes away some visibility can be a nice way to kind of use the host or who's ever spamming Rot Breath or something against the team you're playing against. So just kind of being aware that visibility might not be available or something from attacks like Rot Breath or Dragonfire or something like that is a nice approach, and you definitely can kind of use it as your strategy. So there I went for Raptors of the Mist, and that's something to be aware of. If you do go for Raptors of the Mist, something like a straight sword, it can stagger you out of your jumping attack. So it's useful to kind of be aware of where your poise is at. Ideally, you'd either be able to tank the straight sword attack, which I do have enough poise, I believe, to tank 1 straight sword attack, but if I don't have a full poise bar, then it will, be an issue, and I will get stun locked out of it. So there, I think they hit me while I was in the air, but I had full poise, so I was able to get the jumping attack. But they are pretty effective at pressuring me here. The host is going for some pretty nice Ashes of War with the Bloodhound Fang, and that can do a lot of damage. So here is another moment where I use the Rot Breath kind of to my advantage. Normally they'd be able to see me throwing that pot, but because the Rot Breath was in the way, they didn't see it coming, so I was able to get Frostbite on that Phantom, which is pretty helpful, especially if you're trying to increase your burst damage. Your chances of doing more damage all at once will be a little bit higher if they're frostbitten. So definitely something good to be aware of, and freezing pots have been something I've been incorporating more into my builds and have just really been enjoying. There I'm able to land the jumping L1 and hit the blood loss at the same time, and that does around 900 damage, which is enough to kill my opponent. So that was pretty useful. I think that was kind of a turning point in this fight, because that Phantom was doing a good job of wearing down my health, and like the host wasn't too much of a threat, but the Phantom, I would say I was kind of struggling to manage to apply a bunch of damage to them. So having that burst damage associated with the blood loss and the jumping attack was really nice. And having done some less burst damagey builds recently, I think it was kind of fun for me to go back to something that's a little bit more like high risk, high reward. So that's another thing to note about this, is the tracking with these is okay, especially if you delay your jumping attack. The tracking can kind of work in your favor a little bit better if you're not stuck in the attack animation. So in some cases it may be better to free aim your jumping attack, but it's just worth noting that jumping attacks are not always going to connect, especially if people are strafing or something. And they also will open you up to potential backstabs. That was a nice moment there, just where I had the opportunity to weapon swap over to the Sword Dance Ash of War, and I felt like that was really nice to have kind of in your back pocket. I wouldn't use it all the time, and I think I'd like to get my opponents kind of comfortable with the Raptors of the Mist Ash of War, and then once they were low on health, especially if they weren't backing up in a straight direction, like if they were, you know, walking off to the side, or if there was a wall behind them or something, I found Sword Dance to be really effective. Here's another quick vigor check. Not sure what that blue was doing with like 500 vigor, invading, or, you know, supporting invaders at level 80, but you know, that's all right. That gives me a little bit more health. And then here I'm able to go for the last follow-up part of the Sword Dance Ash of War to get the kill. So I think I used Sword Dance twice throughout this invasion and got 2 kills with it. So definitely a good way to kind of follow up on the chase down, and I really enjoyed it. This next one is going to be one that I definitely struggled with at the beginning. So the Black Blade is being used really effectively by this Phantom here, and I get hit by it all 3 times I use it. Finally, I'm able to get my timing down and try to apply some pressure to them, which I think was helpful in terms of getting them to stop using it. And I, you know, get them to use something that's a little bit odd of a choice. They have the, I think it's like the Celebrant's Ribcage or something. But I'm able to hit them once there just with a jumping attack and actually get both people in that instance. And then they go for the Black Flame Tornado, and I try to time a jumping attack right at the end of the Ash of War, which works out, and I'm able to get the chase down with the Fan Daggers. So, you know, I always recommend having Fan Daggers just kind of in your back pocket as well, because if somebody's at 2 HP and you need just a little bit more damage, it can be much more practical to start spamming Fan Daggers than it is to like get a well-timed roll catch with a big slow weapon. So I would say Fan Daggers are really going to be your best friend. They've gotten me out of sticky situations before. They've also kind of gotten me into bad situations if somebody's at a very low amount of HP and I go for Fan Dagger attacks, and they just, you know, it puts me in an animation where I'm stuck for a moment. Sometimes people will take advantage of that. And so like a host or another Phantom might, you know, use that opportunity to get some jumping attacks on me or something. So I would say just be careful when you use them. Don't get too greedy with them, because they can be, you know, they can be a great tool, but can also work against you. So I end up kind of just going for chase downs with this host. And here I really like getting backstabs on that particular Ash of War. The recovery time from the follow-up explosion for Radon's swords is pretty long, so if you can roll that explosion and kind of just roll into it, then you'll usually be in a good spot to get the backstab, and then I just kind of chased them down afterwards once they were a little bit on their back foot. This next one was pretty chaotic. It was in these tunnels here, and I would say they were both good for me and bad for me. It's just being able to see and like orient the camera in these tunnels was a challenge. I think that's something people talk about a lot in terms of From Software game, is like the most difficult part can be getting your camera to do what you want it to. But it started out with me just kind of getting stuck, so I missed the jumping attack, which would have been pretty helpful. We have somebody with Morgoth's Cursed Sword, and they're light rolling. Those two things together are kind of scary. The blood buildup is significant. The Ash of War will stun lock you for quite a while and just do a lot of damage. Here I get really lucky where I get a heal off before I get blood lost, so that worked out okay. I managed to get a sleep pot off, which I think does some sleep buildup, but doesn't end up getting the full sleep animation. I almost die here and managed to roll out of it and just kind of go for a hope heal that works out, and I get one more sleep pot off. So one thing I do like about sleep, even if you don't get a hit, it will do damage to their FP. So here it was a nice moment, just as a way to stop the person from light rolling away, and I get some damage in, and I take away some of their FP, which I think is pretty important in an instance where somebody's got Morgoth's Cursed Sword. So that ended up working out pretty well, and then I was able to kind of at least start a bit of a chase down where I got one hit in and then kind of baited them into something that would put me in a good spot to use Raptors of the Mist. So that wasn't so bad. Once the Phantom was kind of out of the picture, I was able to turn it into a one-on-one, and the host didn't have too much health. So I was pretty happy this one worked out. Those tunnels are definitely scary, and I kind of felt like that one could go either way. Next up, we have a one-on-one, and this person I fought a little bit prior to this particular invasion, and it was a very close fight. They ended up beating me in the end, but I did kind of get a good understanding of their playstyle from that first one-on-one, and so this next one I think was just a good demonstration of just learning kind of what my opponent was going to do and then being able to take advantage of that. So here I kind of take advantage of the particular timing that they get with their Ash of War. They're stuck in that animation for a little bit while longer, and my Ash of War has more reach than theirs and more forward mobility, so it kind of propels me into the end frames of their Ash of War, and I'm able to get the kill there, which was pretty nice. Next up, we have just kind of a funny invasion. First, we get a quick vigor check on that Phantom. I'm not sure what they were doing with that amount of vigor, but then we kind of begin the chase down of the host. And I'm kind of, based on their playstyle and everything, I'm kind of surprised that they were in the level 80 bracket, but that's all right. You can also see that some of my hits are not connecting. Fortunately, the host was not doing a ton of damage and was just kind of going for a lot of attacks with the, I believe it's the Scavenger Curve Sword. So here I land what I think is a jumping attack, and then, you know, I think I land another one there, but things are pretty packet lossy. So, you know, we get 1,000 damage in right there, which, you know, brings them down a little bit. My general recommendation is if you think you're going to get hit by a packet loss, roll a lot and keep your health full. So there we got another blood loss proc that just hit way, way late. And that's something I've seen other people, like Elden Ring content creators, talk about, is just packet loss has been a little bit more prevalent recently for some people. I think most of them are on PC, but I feel like I have seen a slight uptick, at least in packet loss on PlayStation as well. So that's something I'm going to be keeping an eye on as we kind of move forward out of patch 1.07, and it's just, I don't know, it makes for some funny invasions, I think. This next one was kind of just two back-to-back 1v1s. I am not super patient for just kind of Limgrave invasions. You never really know what you're getting, and I think I've definitely regretted being patient at the beginning of these. So if there's a Phantom, I'll go for them first, and then I'll go for the host, but I'm not gonna like stick around and pretend that it's a fight club, because typically my experience has been that it starts out with me assuming that the host is not going to go for me because they're like patient or something, and then once things aren't going well for the Phantom, they'll get involved and potentially kill me. But there was some nice roll catching there and jump catching with the crouching attack at the end of that last one, so I was able to get a couple crouch attacks in that caused the blood loss to finish off my opponent there. So that was a nice win for that Limgrave invasion. This next one I also thought was kind of funny. It's just everybody with big, heavy, slow weapons, which I had a lot of fun with. A couple times throughout this one I get kind of stun lock chained. I think they're able to get 3 consecutive hits in. If you get stun locked by the first one, stun locked by the second one, and then hit by the follow-up one but not stun locked. But Raptors of the Mist ended up being a really nice tool, because the longer your opponent is in their recovery animation after their attack, the more likely you are to hit with Raptors of the Mist. And then here I accidentally kill the host first, but there's just enough time for me to get a jumping attack on the Phantom as well, right before the blue comes in to cause some trouble. Here we also have a 1v1, and I just kind of wanted to include some 1v1s for this build because slow weapons are good, I would say, in lots of different scenarios if you vary your moveset. So obviously getting the burst damage in an invasion context where you know, your hosts might be more aggressive and less apt to react well to your timing is, you know, an aspect of this particular build that I liked a lot. But, you know, you can also continuously pressure and just vary your moveset and your attacks and win 1v1s effectively. it's just kind of a matter of being unpredictable. So this next one was kind of funny. It started off, this one took place during a stream that I was doing, and I started reading chat right at the beginning. So that like really put me on my back foot. I got hit by a bunch of stuff and used most of my heals just because I like wasn't really paying attention. I didn't even use my normal physic that I use at the beginning of Invasion. So this one was kind of rough, and I was expecting to lose it. But you know, kudos to these opponents because they did a great job of pressuring and just kind of maintaining that pressure. However, their health management was kind of their downfall, I think. So, you know, I tried to go for a heal, get hit by lightning, which was kind of unfortunate. They start going for the Taker's Flame, Ash of War. But I do get some freezing pots off, which means my damage output's going to be a little bit higher while they're frostbitten, and I'm finally at full health again, so I feel comfortable being a little bit more aggressive. And I'm also trying to use this big rock here just as a way to either catch them from moving forward or you know, jumping onto it, just to vary the terrain a little bit. And there I land a jumping attack on the host, and that takes care of them, and then the Phantom I'm able to get a quick follow-up kill on. So that worked out pretty well in that instance, and was just kind of a nice comeback moment where I wasn't so sure if it was going to work out in my favor. Next up we have a 2v1, and this one I went for some chase downs. The Phantom here was not amazing at getting out of the way, but they did have Moonlight Greatsword, which, you know, the Ash of War comes out really quickly and does a lot of damage, so it's something to be kind of worried about. They ended up getting a nice hit in just a moment here where I'm expecting them to not have the tracking with their Ash of War that they do have, so I go in for a jumping attack, they go for an Ash of War, and it just hits me like squarely in the face. So that's something that's pretty good to be aware of, I would say, with Moonlight Greatsword. When I see discs, I kind of assume that their tracking is going to be fairly flat, but you can see they handle the incline pretty well. And there I almost kill them and use Fan Daggers just to finish them off as they were about to heal. So definitely a nice way to use Fan Daggers, and just a good opportunity to, you know, not need to engage in a full chase down where you might get hit along the way. And then it's just kind of a 1v1. I go for my Ash of War and they go for theirs, and we both just kind of whiff. But I just start applying a slightly better chase down, I think, where I'm kind of varying my attacks, and then managed to get a backstab here. I was pretty certain that I ended up killing them, but they were able to roll out, but that was alright when they go for the heal. They just didn't have enough space, and I was able to land a jumping attack. Next up, we have a pretty good one-on-one. This opponent had pretty good spacing, pretty good timing when it came to just rolling out of dodges, and then a nice build with the Moonlight Greatsword and a staff in the offhand. So I definitely enjoyed this one-on-one, and just kind of put this weapon to the test to really take advantage of kind of mind games with, you know, timing in terms of attacks, and just adjusting my playstyle to be a little bit less predictable. Just going for normal jump attacks is not going to really do the trick. So I do manage to kind of bait them into a heavy attack that I go for a Raptors of the Mist attack as kind of a counter, and that kind of puts them on the back foot. I would say these weapons are really nice once your opponent needs to heal. I think the threat of another jumping attack is pretty scary, and also it's useful just, you know, they heal and you go for a jumping attack, and if that connects, they kind of are back in a position where they need to heal again. So that was a moment there where I attacked a little bit too early and kind of lost the advantage and kind of got them out of that chain where they are trying to heal. But I do manage to free aim a Frost Pot and get the last bit of damage there. So that was just kind of a example of something that you'll see a lot, I think, with this build, is a you know, punishing the heals kind of chase down rotation, where you will get them out of health pretty quickly and use a lot of their heals in the process, even if you don't finish them off with one of the jumping attacks. And then the blood buildup is also going to be pretty significant. So this next one is a 2v1 where I'm able to take care of the Phantom pretty quickly, and the setup is a little bit scary. That spell that the host was using that sends kind of like frost out of that sword is pretty scary. It can do a lot of damage. It can do frostbite damage. So depending on like how high their intelligence is, it's a potential way to just kind of get 1 or 2 shotted. So that was, you know, kind of a sticky situation we managed to get out of there by killing the Phantom, and then it's just kind of time for the chase down. And in the process, another red comes in. So the host, I think, makes a good decision here and switches to a katana. The moveset is a little bit faster, but they are going to need to worry about poise damage. So I go for Raptors the Mist because I think I can poise through one of their attacks, and that katana ends up being Moonveil, which is, you know, pretty formidable. So I chase them down pretty well here, but end up landing my jump attack just a little bit late. I'm not sure if I delayed it or not, but the crouching light attacks ended up being really useful in this scenario. There I go for kind of a fake out. I jump and then don't attack, which is something that I find to be pretty useful in a build like this, just kind of seeing how they react to a jump. So if you jump twice and they don't roll any of those times, if the third time you do attack, you'll likely hit them, or you might bait them into a sense of security where they think that you're gonna, you know, just keep jumping, but the time that you do land that or go for that jump attack rather than just the jump is going to be a nice way to kind of mix it up, and you may be more likely to hit them with that jumping attack. So that's just kind of a tactic I use sometimes. This next one was a 2v1, and we have somebody that's really a fan of the Beast Roar Ash of War. They have a Highland Axe in their offhand, which does boost roar attack, so that's pretty scary, the amount of damage they're able to do. And it's a good pressuring tool to pair with a host that's using a Twin Blade with blood loss buildup. So this was kind of an interesting team, and I definitely respected their setup. It was, you know, more fun than just Moonveils and, you know, Rivers of Blood. So it was not so bad once it was just a one-on-one, but the 2v1 was a little bit intense just from the amount of chip damage the Beast Roar could do and the blood loss buildup that came with the Twin Blade that the host was using. But, you know, taking out the Phantom, it turns into a one-on-one. I realized at some point that the amount of poise damage that the host is getting with the Twin Blade is knocking me out of the air pretty consistently with Raptors of the Mist. So I was hoping to combo that into a jumping attack, the Raptors of the Mist, but they missed their attack. So a jumping attack would be a much better kind of candidate for a Twin Blade attack, just because they're going to be more likely to have longer recovery frames after a jumping attack than just a neutral light attack. So that was kind of my hope there. It didn't end up working out, but that's just kind of a strategy I employed. And then I go for a ravioli step, but they're dead by the time I reach them. So, and then this last one, this is going to be just a perfect display of how to handle an elevator situation. This was in the Melania's Both's room, and I just like really nailed this one. So if you watch till the end here, the host goes down the elevator just in time, and I followed up with a jumping attack. Don't do enough damage and just get wrecked. As always, if you made it this far, just wanted to say thanks so much for watching. This build was somewhat recommended. Somebody requested a blood build, so this is the one that I went with. And if you do have any recommendations or just requests, types of builds you'd like to see, I definitely read those comments and like to incorporate, you know, just what people are looking for into my YouTube catalog. So yeah, if you've got something in mind, feel free to let me know, but that's all I got. Thanks so much.